Will there be too many villains in Spider-Man Homecoming? This week was a big week for villains. It was officially announced that Joe Manganiello will be playing Deathstroke in the solo Batman movie. If you want to hear my thoughts on who I would have cast, check out last week's video by clicking down below. But before all that, some potential leaked set photos from Spider-Man Homecoming hit the web, possibly revealing that the Shocker will be a part of the movie. Now I gotta be honest with you, I have a soft spot in my heart for the Shocker. For some reason, I've always found the villain appealing. Maybe it's his design. He looks kind of like a G.I. Joe villain. I don't know, but I'd be down to see him on the big screen. So let's say these set photos are legit, right? So that means that we have the Shocker, the Tinkerer, and the Vulture all in Spider-Man Homecoming. Is that too many villains? I've already heard this cropping up in certain discussions. Oh no, Spider-Man Homecoming's already ruined. It has too many villains. And that's a problem, right? You can always hear the infamous Spider-Man 3, which had Sandman and Venom and the New Goblin. It's called the New Goblin. It's official. And Batman and Robin, which had Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze and Bane. And also Dr. Woodrue. That's a DC villain. He's technically a villain. And also Amazing Spider-Man 2, which had Rhino and Electro and Green Goblin. But if you think about it, too many villains is not what tanked those movies. Those movies didn't do well because they weren't good. There's no story cohesion, and the jumble of villains was a symptom of that. There's actually been superhero movies with plenty of villains that are great. For example, Christopher Nolan's Batman movies. Think about Batman Begins. It has Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul, yes, but it also has Victor Zsasz, it has Falcone, it has a lot of classic Batman villains in it. Same with The Dark Knight. It has Joker, Two-Face, Scarecrow, Maroni. It has this guy who could be the Riddler. It has that guy who could be Killer Croc. Those are a lot of villains, but it worked because those movies weren't focused on the villains. Those movies were focused on Batman, or in The Dark Knight's case, the philosophical battle between Batman and the Joker. I think the problem surfaces when movies lose focus and don't know what story they're telling. Too often us superhero fans define these movies by like, oh, what bad guy are they facing? When really it should be what story are these movies telling, and the bad guys should fit in to support that story. And it's also important to remember, not every villain needs an origin story. Not every villain is important enough or interesting enough to support a whole origin story as a part of a superhero movie. As a longtime comic book fan, I've wanted to see superhero movies move in a direction where you can have just random villains pop up for the hero to stop quickly without the need for a whole long backstory. You know, I'm talking like C-listers, like, you know, the Shocker. For example, Captain America Winter Soldier started with Cap taking down Batroc the Leaper, who's a villain from the comics. And it didn't derail the movie because he didn't need a whole big backstory. They let you know he was a terrorist, they let you know he was a good fighter, and that was basically it. Because he was serving the story wasn't trying to serve him. Civil War was similar because it started with a big battle with Crossbones, and ultimately he didn't factor a big part into the movie because he didn't need to. He served his function. I would love to see Shocker fit in similarly to Spider-Man Homecoming. If we already have the Tinkerer and the Vulture confirmed, it's not a stretch to imagine that maybe Adrian Toomes, aka the Vulture, is serving a kind of Norman Osborn role, creating these dangerous technologies that he's testing on the field with people like the Shocker. So maybe Spider-Man foils a robbery within the first 20 minutes and sees this crazy Shocker tech, and he starts investigating where it came from, leading him to the Tinkerer who's building them for the Vulture. Boom, easy. And word on the street is that Bokeem Woodbine from Fargo will be playing the Shocker. That's got me hoping that they're going to do a version of the character that hews more towards the Spectacular Spider-Man version, where instead of Herman Schultz under the mask, it's Montana. And if you've never seen that cartoon, you're like, what the hell is DJ talking about? And to fix that, you should just watch Spectacular Spider-Man. It's on Amazon and stuff. It's by far my favorite on-screen version of Spider-Man, and what makes that version of the Shocker work is he's not a joke. He's a professional mercenary who's incredibly pragmatic and good at his job, and therefore a canny threat for Spider-Man. And I also like the idea of classic comic book villains filling roles normally held by faceless bad guys. Instead of some random thug robbing a bank, make it the Shocker. Instead of some sort of generic scientist making tech for the bad guy, have it be the Tinkerer. Point is, there's a bunch of different ways you can make Shocker work within Spider-Man Homecoming along with the other villains. And honestly, I'm excited to see a bunch of Spider-Man villains because one of Marvel's weakest points, especially in cinema, has been its villains. And Spider-Man has one of the best rogues galleries in comics. Second probably only to Batman. As always, it's best to reserve judgment until we've seen the movie. General audiences haven't seen a single official frame of Spider-Man Homecoming yet, so we have no idea whether it's going to be good or bad. Let's hold our horses, wait and see, but imagine all the cool possibilities that could be before us. Alright, that's it for me. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of Spider-Man Homecoming and what Spider-Man villains you'd like to see on the big screen. Please tweet me or comment down below what topics you'd like me to cover in the future, and don't forget to check out my podcast with Sam Basher, Only Stupid Answers. We have new episodes every Monday, and last week we got schooled on wrestling by the amazing Mike Falzone. You should check that out on SoundCloud and iTunes. Alright, take care and have a great weekend.